It was the end of 2005. I had been diligently flight training during the week and fucking around in Bill on the weekends. But it was time for a break, so I flew home. I arrived just in time for a New Year's party. And that meant joining my family at Uncle Mark's and watching my father make an entrance riding a snow shovel. I spent a lot of time that January with family and friends. Not sure exactly what's up with wearing helmets while you ice fish. It seemed to be some sort of phenomenon I didn't know about. If you want to get warm, boys, just sit around the fire. I wasn't sure if I would have enough flight time to get hired, so I rented a 150 for a block of 50 hours. It was a great opportunity to get my family and friends in the air. I even took code flying. Al was kind of queasy, but we had a good time. Meanwhile, Tony was catching the bug. Mom and I took a day and went for a nice cruise down the river, while Brad, Cody, and I went for a wild night flight. It's true, nowadays we have drones for things like this, but nothing compares to actually flying except flying. It was a great 50 hours in the 150. That month I went to see Firehouse, one of my favorite bands. It was the good old days, hanging out with my buds. Bill Leverty sure can play a guitar. I went for a little hike down in the rocks at St. Croix. It's always a good idea to go for a hike in the winter. Took a little day trip up to Duluth. And I even swung by Gooseberry for a little while. I cruised through Como, and then it was time to leave. I returned to Arizona, except my time was done there. I was headed to the classrooms and the Level D simulators up in Denver at CAE. Miles apart and only one way to get there. I met up with another pilot named Steve, and together we drove through the desert into the mountains of Colorado. I had a couple extra days, and Steve said I could crash with him at his soon-to-be ex-wife's house. Steve said we would ride the gondola down into town, but what I couldn't figure out is why we would bring his dog Bruiser. It probably stands as the most amazing town I have ever seen. Telluride, Colorado. I've seen Aspen, Vail, Keystone, Breckenridge, Crested Butte, and Snowmass, and nothing compares to Telluride, Colorado. It was time for us to find some breakfast. Steve found a pole and tied Bruiser up outside. Then I proceeded to eat fresh fruit and crepes for $40. There's one thing for sure about Telluride. This town ain't for the poor. And after we tied up Bruiser for the second time, I realized that was the norm here. You go out on the town and you tie up your dog. Steve decided he would go skiing for the afternoon, so I became the guardian of Bruiser. Look at that beast. After a few hours walking around with Bruiser, Steve and I met up back at his soon-to-be ex-wife's house. After a lengthy discussion of how to find your friends in an avalanche, my days in Telluride came to an end. One of my favorite experiences.